Well, it's a new era of cooperation between the United States and Kenya. President Joe Biden has announced plans to make the African nation a major non-NATO ally. That designation coming during an official state visit by Kenyan President William Ruto. Now it's time to take a deeper dive into U.S. Africa relationship. And joining us is Abdullani Boru Halakhe, an Africa Security Policy Analyst. Thanks so much for taking time to talk to us. I want to get right to it. Let's talk about the significance of designating Kenya as the U.S.'s first major non-NATO ally in sub-Saharan Africa.
I think it's a powerful symbolic designation, but I think in terms of what it really does, it gives Kenya access to, but in a very more advanced way, things that Kenya already has. The excess stockpiles of weapons that the United States has. It also will share some of the intelligence with Kenya, not in the same wavelength as, let's say, if Kenya and the United States had a defense pact. The Five Eyes that includes Australia, UK, France, and Germany. It doesn't have that, but it is nonetheless a very significant step. But I think I don't want that to take away from a raft of other, things around health, human rights, infrastructure, HIV/AIDS, support for journalists, and there are a raft of that. And the key here is, are those pledges or are those money going to be delivered?
Yeah, now the U.S. has had a relationship with Kenya for 60 years now. Let's talk about Kenya's role in the region, why it is important to the United States, looking at Sudan, for example.
Sean, I think one of the advantages, if that may be, is that Kenya is in a region or a neighborhood that is bedeviled with cyclic violence. If you see Somalia, South Sudan, and now we are coming to Sudan, as you mentioned, all these regions will require relief operation, most of them done from Kenya, from neighboring country to neighboring countries. Secondly, you need mediation processes. If you look at significant peace agreements that were signed in the region, be it South Sudan, Somalia one, all of them were done in Kenya. Kenya also actively plays a role, not just in the African Union, not just in the East African Community, where it sent its troop to the eastern parts of the DRC, but it's also a member of IGAD that is part of the negotiation, or at least trying to find solution to slightly over 1 year conflict in Sudan.
Now, I don't want to give the impression that Kenya has a solid relationship with the U.S. and not other nations, because China, Russia, Iran all have relationships with Kenya right now. So why is the Biden administration's Africa strategy perhaps different from previous U.S. administrations?
It is different, but it's not different at the same time, in the sense that there's a fair degree of bipartisan when it comes to the dealing of the African policy. But in terms of the substance of the policy, it still lags behind. If you're looking at investment, if you're looking at trade, for instance, between Kenya and China, and between Kenya and the United States, despite Kenya having seen as an anchor state in the region, those numbers are still lagging behind. It is in recognition of that, the appointment of the U.S. ambassador to Kenya, Whitaker, makes a massive difference. She comes from the private sector. The United States realizes that you cannot just be speaking about democracy and human rights, as important as they are, but people will also need roads, hospitals. People also need something that China has invested in, including the headline investment that is the Kenya Railway, SGR, Standard Gauge Railway, which China showing the way. The United States does not want to be left behind. So it is moving in this space in a significant way.